record on my. All right. So welcome everybody. I'm Christine Shoemaker. I run Shoebox Arts and Shoebox Projects, which is an alternative art space here at the brewery. And just so you know, Lynn is right upstairs and she rents a studio from me. So yeah, so I can kind of hear her, but hopefully it's you guys can't hear her through my speaker and vice versa. Hopefully. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm all about supporting artists, and especially if there's a cool project that I see taking place, or an artist is working on something fun, having an online exhibition, which my physical space Shoebox Projects, it went on hiatus right before the pandemic. And so with the pandemic, it was nice because, well, not nice, but I was already on hiatus. So I was able to bring it online and have online exhibitions. That way artists were still able to share their work and share their projects. And we had group shows, and it's been really, really great. I've met so many more artists from doing that. So I had space. I needed to fill. I mean, this isn't why I invited Lynn, but I had a space on my calendar, and I'm like, hey, Lynn, do you want to do an online, a solo show of this work? And we've been talking about this work for a while. And so also deadlines help. I think that was one of the reasons it gave you a dedeadline to actually work on it.
Oh, absolutely, because it'd still be going.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we put the exhibition together, and there's Kate. And yeah, no, it's come out, really, really great. And from the title to the, to everything. So you'll see it in just a second if you haven't seen it. And let's see. I think that's probably, I feel like my intro is normally longer, but I think that's probably it. So normally how these artist talks work is I will share my screen and I'll share the online exhibition. And I'll ask Lynn a couple of like introductory questions about her career and her art and the project itself. And then I'll scroll through and she can kind of maybe if you have anecdotes or stories or anything, about the work as I scroll through. If anybody has any questions, this is kind of informal, please feel free to, to ask any questions, at all. And then also you'll be able to, you can see behind Lynn, this worked out perfectly. There is actually the show right there also in person. So you can kind of get an idea of how big it is, how big the works are. And I was thinking about it, Lynn, I'm like, oh, it kind of would have been fun to put the 4 grouped portraits like next to each other as if those were on a yearbook page. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, how they have those, but another time.
Right, because that's how they do it in the yearbook now.
Exactly. So with that, welcome everybody. Daryl and Kate, good to see you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And let's see. All right, I will go ahead and share my screen here. And Lynn, before we, okay, there we go. Before as we're kind of looking at this, do you want to just give kind of a little history about your art practice in general and what you do, and then kind of go into what inspired you to do this project?
Well, my background is art history. I mean, I've been in the arts forever, and my background is art history. I got my bachelor's in art history, and I've taken classes in arts all throughout my whole career. And then I worked for a long time, as Amy well knows, and I really, just did not have the time or the energy to devote wholeheartedly to my art career as much as I wanted. And then I retired. And so since about 2018, I've really been working. I've been working on my art practice pretty much full time. I started the studio here. Well, actually, I think I signed the lease in February of 2020. And so then the pandemic hit and I didn't come in for several months. But since then I've been at it. I enjoy being in this space really so much. And I have to thank Christine so much for making this available to me, because it's really a special place. I was working long time ago. I was working with, I was doing assemblage pieces.
Yay.
And shout out assemblage. And then I started getting hungry to make my own marks again. I was, I wanted to put my hand in there somewhere. I mean, obviously with the assemblage pieces, you're doing it, but something in me just wanted to get my mark directly on a surface. So then I started drawing, and I was drawing with graphite and charcoal. And then, of course, now you can't really tell from these, but then I just desperately wanted color. So then I jumped into full throttle into the paintings. And my work is mainly about memory and how it shapes us. And my source material is vernacular photography. So I search the web. Sometimes I use my own photographs, my own family history photographs. Those that people give me, and also just things I find on the web. And so that's kind of how this whole project came together. I was seeking out different sources of vernacular photography, and I came across high school yearbook portraits, and I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. And so I had varying figures, and I was talking to Christine about it, and kind of just different ideas of how to configure this. And then thought, well, why not just do it like a high school yearbook page? And then I also wanted to include the group shots, like there's the stamp club and the prom queens and such. So that's kind of how this came to be.
Awesome. And I know you talk in your artist statement a little bit, like jumping into the exhibition itself or the work, this project itself. I know you talk a little bit about, high school wasn't exactly the best of times. So how did it feel like working on this project and getting back into, your history like that?
That's what's actually became really interesting about this whole process of bringing this show together is my original idea was I was going to do different, high school seniors of different time frames, different eras. Some were going to be black and white, some were going to be in color, like the newfangled ones are in color. And then as I started looking for and picking the photos that I wanted to use, I realized I was fixating on ones from my own kind of era, my own high school era. And it's amazing how everybody looks the same. I mean, kids in Chicago and kids in Kentucky and kids in Indiana. I mean, they could have gone to my high school. So I really spent a lot of time gazing at these people as I'm painting them. And as you said in my statement about it, I was really a pretty miserable kid in high school. I was shy, I was awkward, I had no idea what people talked about. You know, I didn't know, like, if somebody would approach me and say hi, I didn't know what to talk about. And I felt like there was some kind of rule book about being a cool kid that I was out sick that day when it was handed out because I just didn't get it. I was um, very uncomfortable just being me, who I was. And uh, painting these pictures is kind of released some of that hold that these people had on me. In a way, they were kind of bigger than life at the time because they seemed to have all the answers and I didn't. So they had power over me. By doing this, I'm looking at them and I'm not trying to make fun of them. I'm not trying to ridicule them or demonize them. Um, I just wanted to look at them objectively. And they started, they kind of start off kind of cartoonish and then they start to develop and they start to take on their own personalities. So yeah, it's kind of like releasing that. I can look back from where I am now and I can look at those people and I realize, they were just kids. They were just kids like me. They, they had their fears, they had their insecurities and, trying to figure out who the hell they were in this world, just like me, and so it's kind of liberating. It's sort of freeing and liberating to do this. It's kind of it's sort of removed some kind of a spell that's cast. So does that answer the question?
Definitely. I mean, I love how, we use art, as a form of therapy, as a form of getting over our fears, challenging ourselves and others. And, you're definitely doing that here. I know you also had mentioned that some of these people, you took from your own yearbook and some of them you don't know. So I'm wondering, based on what you had just said, the ones you took from your yearbook, did they have some type of special significance, whether good or bad?
Yes. As a matter of fact, yeah, the ones from my yearbook are kind of emblematic of my complete feeling of non-popularness. And not naming any names, but up on this wall, there's a girl that I was really good friends with in grammar school. And we hung out all the time. We went over to each other's house. We had dinner over at each other's house, and we were just the best of friends. And we went to different junior high schools because of district whatever. And we lost touch. But then, we went back in high school. We were at the same high school. So during that 3 years of junior high school, she had turned into a popular girl with a capital P. And really pretty, and she was a varsity cheerleader and voted into student government and stuff like that. And she just pretended she didn't know me. And maybe she genuinely forgot me during those 3 years. Or maybe I, didn't fit the resume, the profile. But it hurt my feelings. It really hurt my feelings. So, but I look now and it's like, she's just this person. She's just a kid. It's like hasn't made that big of a difference in my life at the end of the day. And my biggest high school shame was that I wasn't voted most artistic in my senior class. And it was the one thing, the one hope I held out for. And it was the one thing I had and even that wasn't even recognized. But the person who got it is on this wall.
Let me guess.
So I'm not even gonna use a pronoun. I'm not even gonna tell you what the gender is. So.
Yeah. Did and actually, like, in your yearbook, were there pictures of, like, art class? Like, you have the pictures from prom, the pictures from the stamp club. Were there any pictures focused on the art department or anything?
I think there was maybe one or two, because we kind of had those desks that kind of came up so you could put your paper on it and stuff. And I think there was, but I don't think I ended up I think I did end up, there's a little picture of me in like some other class, but I don't think I ended up in that one, in the art class.
Well, if you continue this, maybe think about, using one of those art, group art pictures as another way of, like,
oh yeah,
letting go of that,
yeah, right,
right.
Yeah, it's just kind of letting go. Just
yeah. Does your technique and the media that you use, does that inform, like, the subject matter and the concepts? As far as, like, I mean, your work is, it's not, oh my gosh, what's the word? Like, realistic, as far, not like, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. Not realism, or not I cannot think of the word.
yeah,
It's not like, perfect realism, like photographic realism or anything.
right.
Expressionistic, your brush strokes are, you use the way you paint. I don't know, there's something there that I think there's an energy there that I'm wondering if that energy does inform the subject matter.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the reasons that I wanted to originally take on this subject was for that very reason. Because when you look at the portraits, when you look at yearbooks and you look at the pictures in yearbooks, they have a real specific look, obviously. They tell you to pose a certain way, and certain girls do this, and certain guys do this, and they look this way and that. And then, so there's a real specific look to them. And I tried to strike a balance between, because I didn't want them to be photorealistic. I didn't want them to just, look like, oh my God, look at that, it's a photograph. I wanted them to be very painterly, but I also wanted them to suggest that idea, of these very specific kind of this framework for setting people up, and having them look realistic. I didn't want them to be caricatures. I didn't want them to be cartoonish, things like that. So yeah, I mean, I find that because my struggles with acrylics. I find acrylics so difficult because they just dry, and the colors are different from what they come out of the tube. And I don't think I could do this kind of work. I like the fastness of it. I like that you have to be fast, and you have to just say, okay, look at that. That works. That's gonna be it. And the process, I don't know if you can really see them here, but you can a little bit on some of them, and especially the larger ones. I start off with well, there you go, with a color, like a bright color in the background, and then I don't use black paint. I use raw umber, and ultramarine blue, and it makes a really nice almost black. And so I think what happens is sometimes you get a tad more blue and a tad more brown. Like on her, you can see the two kind of different, like her face is a little more, has a little more of the blue, and her hair has a little more of the brown. So you get a kind of a sparkly or a, you know, a nice kind of thing going on, a nice quality that I think, you know, it's not just black and white, black and white. It's a little more lively. And the colors coming through, I think, also give it a little extra sparkle. So yeah.
Wow, I love that you don't use black, that, you know, it's a mixture.
Yeah, I don't, you know, it was like one thing I learned in an art class once and it just stuck. But I do like it a lot better. I think it has kind of a richer sense than just using ivory black or Mars black or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see like the kind of orange coming through.
Yeah, in different different areas.
Yeah, and sometimes like in the background, like there'll be little parts, because you can, you know, when you look at them up close, they're a lot more kind of impressionistic, or just faster. They're not really impressionistic, or the blue here, and you know, some parts it gets kind of, you know, the paint, the pigment gets a little thinner, and so the background comes out, and I kind of like that. I like that effect.
So I know we had talked about names, you know, like these aren't, you know, these aren't the names of these people. You made them up. And then, you know,
Yeah,
and we
right,
talked about like
right,
social media, you know, you started coming up with stories about these people. And you
right.
know, I just love how, I mean, it's really semiotic. It's like, okay, wait, you know, I was thinking about it. I'm like, what if somebody recognized themselves, but then they saw that the name was different? It's like, I wonder how that would like psychologically affect them. It's like, wait, you know, I don't know. There's just something there.
I know. I'm hoping they don't sue me.
I
That's
know.
what I'm hoping.
Nah. But where did you come up with some of the stories?
They just, they're, I don't know. They're just in my, they just came up in my head because, like I was saying, you know, I started with a photograph and then I started painting them, and some of them don't even really end up looking like the photograph at all. You guys don't know because you can't see the photos, but they started to really take on this kind of really specific personality. And I guess, I mean, I guess by being so quiet in high school, I learned to observe. And I don't know. I mean, just these people seem like, oh yeah, people that you know, they look like, oh yeah, I know that kid. Um, and they just kind of came to me, that their names just came to me, you know. I would just like just kind of ponder them, and then they just told me their names.
And we kind of talked about it, and I thought about it because I talked about this one reminds me of this guy I had a crush on in high school, and he
Oh
was
yeah.
a leader named Jimmy. And so,
Yeah,
and he had like,
Jimmy.
he had dark hair with like this like blonde piece in the front. And
Right.
so, you know, yeah, it's like it's nostalgic for, you know, the viewer also. It's like, oh, you know, it just brings you back. It's like I really had a crush on him. I went away for the summer and I was writing letters that I never sent, you know, that I shouldn't be admitting that, but you know. But yeah,
Yeah, that's good. I mean, because that's kind of what I'm hoping, you know, that it'll encourage people to think about their own history, you know, where they were, where they've come. You
exactly.
know, it's such a kind of sort of, I mean, at least not universal maybe, because I don't think they have them all over the world, but certainly an American kind of reality.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I love looking at the texture. I mean, you can really see the texture and what did you do to get this texture? Did you paint on something else or was that just the underpainting?
Yeah, it's usually just the underpainting because what I do is I'll use real heavy acrylic for the underpainting,
Mhm.
and then I make sure there's a lot of texture in it still. I don't sort of even out all the surface, so it's not like this flat surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like that texture that comes through.
And does anybody have any questions or have their own stories about high school that that this is bringing up? I was in high school, I kind of got along with everybody. I think I even prided myself. I was friends with the jocks, friends with the punks, and I had my own little group, but I also like never felt like myself. And for me, like my eating disorder had started 3 or 4 years before that. And so, that even unconsciously I didn't know, but that kind of ran my life and I became a people pleaser. And so I wanted to be friends with everybody. And
Yeah,
um
right. Right.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, I look back on my picture and one of my yearbook pictures, I wanted to be a rebel and I kept the glasses, like my sunglasses in my hair. And yeah, I don't I'm like, yeah, these are just times where sometimes we're not proud of ourselves, sometimes we are, but and I know some of these like, there were like this guy isn't necessarily smiling or, whether he was in the
Right.
original or not. But and I remember specifically like when having the picture taken, they were pretty strict on like exactly how you sat, the direction that you stared, smiling and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, they told you, like sit this way, and then yeah, and then they kept telling me to smile. Like this guy here that's on the screen now, he was not smiling, and you could tell he was refusing to smile because he's a tough guy. And but I wouldn't smile either. I refused to smile. It was like talk about being a people pleaser. It was like the one time that a grown up, was telling me to do something that I didn't do
yeah.
because I didn't want to smile. I had nothing to smile about.
Yeah. Robin had a question. Let's see. Do you feel like there also is an element of taking back the power the other students had over you, i.e., using their images to be your voice and speak your experiences? Great question.
Yeah, that is a great, great, great question. And yes, I think so. I think so. Rather than feeling like shunning them or being spiteful towards them, it made me feel like they were kind of co-conspirators in a way. I yeah, I mean it helps to kind of tap into everybody's energy, and I can't quite put words to it, but it's kind of like what you were saying. It's I mean, yeah, okay, they didn't they didn't vote me most artistic, but I have chosen to take everybody and make their pictures and um create this thing.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's very true. I mean, it becomes more of a kind of a collective experience.
Definitely,
That's
definitely.
really great. That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you included yourself, and we're coming across this one. I love the glasses.
I love him.
I know.
I just think he's so cute.
Yeah, yeah. And there's like black eyes, or blue and sienna, or the whatever color, but yeah,
Right,
they're like piercing.
right.
Yeah, he looks like an artist type. But I was thinking about it. I say that, but it's like, okay, that really gets you to think about image and how we, that's what my work's about. It's like, not judging people, but identifying people on appearance first. It's like, I
Yeah,
have no idea who this is. He could be an accountant, but he, it's
right.
really, it gets you to think like these anonymous people that you have renamed. It's like I'm already putting an identity on them myself based on how you present them. And like there's one that looks a little more she looks like she could be platinum blonde, and she's maybe, because of the stereotypes that we've grown up with, she could be like the Chrissy, the bumble-headed one. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it like gets you to really
Right. You make these,
pause.
yeah, you make these kind of assumptions about people, and then like now I think, this kid was probably like, he's probably like president of the chess club or something, and he's probably brilliant, Um,
Probably.
like you would just totally want to sit down and talk to him.
Yep, yep, definitely. And Daryl made a comment. It's amazing how this artwork gets me to reflect on high school. I relate to how your friends do
Cool.
change. I had a very close friend in elementary school. We hung out daily. I went to a different junior high. In high school, he hung out with an elitist group and was a
Mm.
star football player. Sadly, he was shot and killed riding in a truck to the beach after
Oh
conflict and an
man.
altercation.
Oh my
Oh fuck.
gosh.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. I mean, that's what I'm hoping that, people can start reflecting on all this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, hopefully doesn't bring back too painful memories, but maybe things that need to kind of be kind of looked at.
Exactly. My mom just, oh, I see your hand, James. My mom just went to her 50th high school reunion recently. 50 years, like people still getting together. And I'm like, I don't go to my high school reunions. So
I've
that's
never
something
been.
also.
I
Yeah.
know, I've never been. And
Yeah. Go ahead, James.
Well, my thought, first of all, this is all very relatable. And I went to my 10th high school reunion, and I found the weight of it was horrible. It was because on graduation day, I basically left and it was over. And to go back 10 years later, or 20, I can't remember which one it was, but it was as though every single relationship with all those people was exactly where I had left it off. So if there was a guy I was intimidated by, I'm still intimidated by him.
yeah, right. You're gonna go there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So all those relationships sort of freeze, and then you kind of go back to that. But a few things here. I mean, you talk about not going back with any vengefulness or anything. You're just sort of presenting them, and yet by putting them there, you are kind of maybe not getting back at them, but highlighting them. And then there's of course, some understanding that you have now that you're older, and you can see that, yeah, you were just a 17-year-old show off who blah blah blah, and probably don't even remember not inviting me to your party, or something like that. So there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's just brought up so many things. Well, one thing you were talking about was judging people by their appearance, right? Like you look at these pictures and you can sort of figure out who they were and stuff. But then think about that. You're judging somebody by their high school yearbook picture. I mean, that's got to be like the worst picture that was ever taken of me. It's like, so someone's going to go back and go, oh yeah, that guy, he was probably, it's like, no. That I don't know. It's funny, but I think just one other thing is that writers have a way of maybe not getting back, but revisiting their past, like in a similar way, where you put them into a story or something, or you use some kid's name or something to kind of, that you're using as a source material or something. So I don't know. Anyway, it just going through my head. Oh, I know. I was going to say something. I probably stepped on this because it's embarrassing. But my gut reaction or to high school, this in a way similar to this as an art piece. I had a high school project in a class I was doing, and you had to do like a final project for this humanities class. And so I made a movie, and I did a retelling of the story of the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. But it was all with high school kids, and it was people in the class. And I had all these kids from my school who were in it, came to this party and did this whole thing. And I cleverly changed their names by spelling their last names backwards and things.
I could have done that, yeah.
So, but Neslo, yeah, Olson, okay. Anyway, there were a lot of silly things, but anyway, this I just found this very very intriguing, because as you said, you get these poses, and it could be any year. There must be some art that they're taught, the high school photographers, who are like, get them to do this, because it's like a uniform kind of, I don't know, emptiness or something in their faces. It's weird.
Definitely. So Lynn, do you want to tell us about this piece?
Well, I had to put me in as a little, that's my signature, I guess. And that's the only one that has the real name. So that was little me in high school.
Oh,
This one?
Yeah.
yep.
Oh.
And I think it's the best in the bunch.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was the hardest one to do, because of course it should look like me. The other ones, it's like, I mean, they end up being who they're gonna be. But since it was me, it has to look like me. And I don't know if it does or not, but it's close enough. So this is my signature.
Well, and I mean, every artwork that any artist does is pretty much their self-portrait. I mean, they put themselves in it. And so
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, like this whole project is almost your self-portrait,
Right.
Because it's your experience in high school.
It's about my whole experience, and yeah, like me being on there, it's like all this is surrounding me, because I didn't go to the prom, I didn't go to basketball games, I didn't go to homecoming. But it's just this kind of swirl around me. And kind of like related to Robin's question, it's a part of me, it's all a part of me. It all has gone in there and is a part of who I am.
Absolutely. I was thinking about it also based on one of the comments or something a little earlier. It would be interesting, thinking about, like, I've been talking about this in therapy, when I was a kid, when I was in junior high school, I was, I had people would like, because my last name's Shoemaker. Hey, did you make my shoes? I mean, they would tease me about things. I wear glasses, so I'd be called Four Eyes. So this one guy called me Cabbage Patch Kid because I had chubby cheeks. And I'm like, those things stick with you. It could be an interesting project if you decide to do this, to continue this on and take submissions and ask them, like what name they were called as a kid. Like, you could do me and say Cabbage Patch Kid, or because, we talk about you're doing this to, to challenge, to, how did you say it? To let it go, to be able to let it go.
Yeah.
So that could be like this interesting thing where you're helping others too.
Yeah, right. It's like, who needs therapy? I'll take it. Sure. I'll paint your high school.
Exactly.
Well, you could do the nicknames like that, or else you could also do the reverse. You could put who they are as sort of the Animal House ending, where you put that this person's now a senator somewhere.
Yes.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
right.
if you
Yes.
actually track them down. I mean, I would do that honestly, if you could.
Yeah.
But so you take this guy who looks like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
the Spanish language club or something, and it turns out instead that he's like a rugby
Ambassador.
player or something.
Yeah.
Although I know that kid, so that's
Yeah, like everybody's moving on. Yeah.
Exactly. I know. I love this guy's hair.
I know.
I like the variations on the Beatle haircuts.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
As you ease
Exactly.
into early 70s, there's like little traces of
Yeah,
this
just the kind of
and the sideburns.
And actually, I'm going to scroll up for a second because some of these are also, ambiguous. Like I was looking at Cassie, and, Cassie could actually be male or female.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, nowadays, they're
Yeah.
they could be a they.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even when I was in high school, when in the dark ages, our
Horse
textbooks,
and buggy days.
yeah, right, our textbooks were on scrolls, but yeah, I mean, even then, there were mostly girls, I think, but that were, it was sort of like they could be either. They could go, either.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was just a thing, it was just who they were.
Yeah.
So yeah, I intended for her to be a little bit, what's the word? What is that word?
Gender neutral or
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
there's
know
an
the word.
old-fashioned word. Anyway.
Asexual?
Androgynous.
Androgynous. Thank you. Androgynous. That was what I was looking for. The winner is.
Let's see. I know. I just love the bright color coming through and the flips.
Yeah, right. I had to do this one because of the hair.
Yeah.
It was like, and it didn't move. She could like move her head all over the place, and her hair would just always be like that.
And some of these are interesting because you don't put as much detail into the eyes. And it's like, okay, whether it's conscious or unconscious, I'm like, okay, what's up with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, partly it's a technical kind of thing because I like to not like draw eyes, I like for them to be more suggested. And sometimes I might have been tempted to work a little more on her, for example, or other ones that are less definite. But I think they just kind of said, no, here I am. I like for them. I actually like these a little bit better. I think that, where things kind of come in and out of focus a little bit. Because, well, like I say, I don't like to draw eyes, and it's a real temptation for me to do it. Like on his, I think they're a little more, kind of like try to define them a little more.
I love like you can feel his hair.
I know.
Like,
Yeah, like talking about hair,
yeah.
it's like that kind of like helmet hair.
Since you're not, being like super realistic, you're in some cases maybe you're getting your reaction to that person or your memory of that person. Like maybe somebody you don't remember the detail of their eyes, you remember this much of their face or something, or the somebody who you'd pass in the hall, who you kind of go, who's that? Oh, I know another thing, that there was one kid who looked kind of odd. and I thought, when I had like 500 or 600 people in my graduating class, and when I looked through the yearbook and when I went to the reunion, there were people I had absolutely zero memory of. who I feel like I knew 20 people, and then there were the other 500. So
Great.
so some of these guys could be like, the lost, who is this, from my class,
Yeah, they're kind of just out there in the periphery,
yeah.
Yeah.
So their impressions are a little more vague.
Mhm.
This one stood out to me a little more because it seems more expressionistic. The face, there's like the brushstrokes
Yeah,
are more pronounced.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, then that was another thing that I kind of liked about it, is that at first I was like, oh, well, they all should look the same, but I like that they're all approached a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And I had no um formula for doing these. Um they I just started with whatever seemed like it made sense, with whatever brush stroke, or like just drawing in the shapes, or drawing, see, like her eyes are a little more defined, I tried
Yeah.
to go in and I started getting a little fussy with her eyes, and but so she's a little more defined. um so everyone is a little bit different
Yeah.
in how I approach them, and then I think at the end of the day how they kind of look, how they kind of bounce out at you.
I was wondering about this one because she doesn't look happy.
She
Not at
was
all.
she, I don't know why I should say this, but she was kind of the stoner girl. I mean, she
Oh.
was like always like a really she was always really nice. She was always stoned.
Chris Rappuccini.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
think somebody just pointed her in the direction of like where to sit. They took the picture and then, okay, thank you, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, because she's actually straight on.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
right.
interesting.
I mean, nobody was ever straight on. They always said,
Yeah.
"Turn, look over your shoulder, do this," but yeah, like very few of them are just boom, like
Yeah.
straight on like that. And she's just taking you. She's just like right there, she's just
Yeah.
looking at you like, "Who are you?"
She's like, get it over with.
Yeah, get this over with.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say you just have such a gift, Lynn, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I think it's more difficult to do a portrait of a person without making it look really real. I think it's more difficult to do what you've done, and yet you've managed to catch so much in each one of these. I mean, you've created a human being out of in the the simple is not the right word, but it just blows me away that, I mean, I'm looking at all of these and you can get lost in each one. They're just, they're just fantastic.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to keep, I really was striving to keep that balance, keep it really painterly, but still like, yeah, that looks like a person.
I mean, I feel like I could, ruffle his hair.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you would have wanted to in high school, huh?
Yep.
And I had to paint her. I love her so much.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I love her hair.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can feel the volume. This is a two-dimensional thing, and yet you can feel it. Yeah, it's just, they're so great. And yours really, Lynn, your eyes in your portrait, there's like, wow.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is too, that this did give me so much good practice on just banging out faces.
Awesome. Yeah.
It was great practice, I have to say. So I learned a lot actually too. Not just as kind of a psychological, release, but also it was such a great learning experience. So
Yeah, and I love these group pictures. They tell so much.
Is this in the 70s?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, like yes, like you can tell.
right? Because I mean that shirt, I had a shirt like that little kid in the front.
Yes, and the tie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah, right. It's
know.
that real
Big
white
tie.
tie. And you
Yeah,
can't really see it, but he's got like this in the picture, you know, he's got like this mustache, this
Yeah.
cool mustache,
It's
walrus.
amazing. And the hair on the kid with the two colored shirt, not the stripes, but the guy in the middle.
Yeah, right.
That's so 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. I was really trying to kind of highlight the fact that, you know, it really is, it's a time. It's
Right.
a time and a place.
Yeah,
And the shorts. Oh,
I know.
I mean, I was in high school in the 80s, but we still were wearing those shorts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just
It was
when
big
they
in the
weren't
80s.
cotton. They weren't cotton anymore. They were whatever. Some fake.
Right. And I had to put this in, you know, because this is actually a little bit anachronistic for my time because we did not have women's sports in high school. So, but you know, I said, I'm putting in these girls playing basketball.
Yeah. And
So,
even this one though is ambiguous.
It is, especially the person on the right.
well, that's
Yeah.
true, actually, now that you mention it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the one on the left does look more
Yeah.
male, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and prom. I didn't go to my proms.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
I thought this was Balloon Club.
I know.
They could have had. They should have had a balloon. Like, what do they call that? You know, when you make like dogs out of balloons.
Oh,
yeah.
Animals.
Yeah.
Balloon animals. Balloon animals.
I
Yeah.
want to know what she's saying or what she's. if
I
she-
know. She just is like, you know, one of those girls. She's like yelling across the room, like at the
Yeah.
top of her lungs, and this other girl is just, please be quiet.
Yeah.
She's probably the one like, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing it all wrong. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, and the queens.
Yes.
Wrong. I know that's what it means. The homecoming.
I love how their faces are not as clear. I mean, you know, homecoming's kind of about beauty and I mean,
Yeah.
you know, besides other things, but you know, you've made their faces less clear.
Yeah. I do kind of like, well, of course, too, this is a little bit of a smaller piece, so I didn't want too much detail in the face, you know, to get too fussy. But yeah, I like their faces kind of receding, you know, into the background. It's all about all the business, you know, and the flowers and all that.
Yeah.
She also looks like she's in the spotlight. You
Yeah.
know,
That could
like
be,
there's a
yeah.
little glow about her, you know.
Yeah.
Right. She's
And it
kind
sort
of
of
like,
fades off to number 2 and then less at number 3. you
right,
know.
they're her court.
Yeah.
And that tiara just sort of, you know, like the brightest
Yeah,
thing
the
in it.
tiara is just like, here it is.
Yeah.
I am the queen.
Oh, I think that's the last one.
Eh,
I think so I had a friend of mine who's a graphic designer put this together. I thought it would be fun. You know, an actual like what the yearbook page would look like.
Yeah, because it would look, yeah, right. Because see, that's what I didn't do was have the names, and that's what the yearbook page.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I
That's wild. It's that. Wow.
like it.
Yeah,
I
isn't
like
that
it.
cool?
That gives it a wow. I don't know what it is about that, but that gives it a wow, a layer, an unexpected layer to it that I wouldn't think would do that.
I know. I love it because it really it's like kind of what I wanted, but I wasn't sure. I mean, if this was going to be paintings on a wall, I mean, I guess I could do that, you know, with the names, like get
Yeah.
those letters, you know.
Do you still have your high school yearbooks?
I do. I had just the one. I had my senior year.
Flip through it and see what you notice on each page for your class. See if there are faces that stand out or faces that, because just looking at that last layout, I was thinking, I don't know that kid. I don't know that kid. And it was like, I would zero in on ones who I thought I recognized. And I don't, obviously don't know any of these people,
Yeah, right.
but it's funny because I mean, there's just people who kind of get glossed over, sometimes. So, but there you are, hanging them out there with the rest of everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions or comments or?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm really not just intrigued, but I really enjoyed it. And despite that one negative thing I brought into play, I mean, there's many positives. I've gone to reunions. There's one particular student that I knew in elementary school that everyone had a crush on, and I'd wanted to go to a reunion where I could see her again, and I missed one. And then finally I went to one, I don't know, 8 years ago. And she was there, and I finally got to see her at a reunion, and it was just kind of like everyone came out saying, yeah, we all had a crush on you, and it was just kind of a fun thing, and to sit and talk with her, and it was just really cool, a really good time to reminisce and look at some of the positives. And my last comment is, a lot of my high school friends, some of them I knew in elementary, a lot of them I'm communicating with on a excuse me, on a regular basis through Facebook. And despite differences throughout the many years, we all seem to be very positive in our connection on Facebook. It's always trying to, look at the positives. And so it's kind of an interesting dialogue now that we have. But it's more for the positive now. So it's just an interesting thing, despite differences in the past, despite some of the, different groups we moved to, and we all have kind of come to a place where we just like to look at what we're up to and just and positive support.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I think some people do keep in touch with people in high school, and some people just don't. I mean, I have one friend that I knew in high school, and that's all. But I know other people, like you. And I had another question for you. You said that you saw this woman who everybody had a crush on, and you told her, how did she react?
She was very modest about it. And just was more about just wanting to talk to everyone on just a modest level, and just talk about what she's been up to, and just sharing life experiences. And it was more about that and it was just kind of one of those things where it was just something that everyone said, oh, we all had a crush on you, but yet that was not something she wanted to really share with everyone. She just wanted to reconnect and just talk about just some of the experiences that we went through in life, So it was just kind of just one of those things where it was in the moment at that young age, but then in adulthood, it was more of a different share between everyone.
Yeah. It's good to be able to, be able to look at where you've come.
Yeah.
From then to now.
And Lynn, I just want to say, I want to make sure, that the names along the sides of the images, like that made it look like a real yearbook, it didn't mean it made your images better, but I think I've been avoiding connecting this entire time to my high school. It's because it was awesome and awful at the same time.
Right.
And those images on my screen were on that page in a yearbook that way with those names next to it. It like smacked me in the face. So I just want to make sure I'm not saying like, oh, that just made them good. They're awesome.
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
Seeing in that format,
it's a different layer kind of.
was like, okay, whoa, wow, yeah, that's,
Whoa, yeah.
that is, yeah, that's all. I just make sure I wasn't saying like, well, you should have done that because they're amazing. But that just made it very real to me, the reality of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
Oh,
I
and go ahead.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna, say something similar to Daryl, that I'm friends with people from high school that I actually didn't even hang out with in high school on Facebook. I'm like, we're friends on Facebook. And I'm like, one of them, even this was last year sometime, she messaged me and she's like, my daughter's an artist. I was wondering if I can pick your brain, that type of
Oh,
thing.
wow.
And so yeah, which is interesting. And like my close friends in high school included my brother, and like there were 3 or 4 of us that we all used to hang out, and we also used to ditch and stuff like that. And we remained friends after high school. And one of them and his wife, who we also knew in high school, I probably haven't seen them in like 8 to 10 years, and they surprised me for my art sale like
Oh,
a month ago.
Nice.
They walked in and I'm like, oh, it was just like we went to dinner and it was like no time had passed. And it
wow.
was just, I felt really grounded, being like just reconnecting like that. And they have kids that are just going into college and graduating college, and and it's also weird because of course I don't have any kids. That could be me. But yeah, it's just yeah, the memories and the nostalgia and the good and the bad. It's along with high school, we learn from and grow from, and sometimes it's okay to go back.
Right.
Yep. Daryl, were you going to say something else?
Yeah, I apologize for interrupting you there. No, I just wanted to say that you're validating something that I've struggled with when I paint, and that is I was doing a painting recently, and there's a lot of motion in my work, and so I was painting the hand of this person. And when you paint figuratively, that go-to is, oh, I don't want it distorted, or I don't want it to look like this, or it's got to look right. And so I was painting the hand of this one person, and I'm like going back and playing with it, and so you're validating that maybe just take a step back, and if it's not that perfect, it's going to be okay. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate that.
Yeah, people probably won't even notice. I mean, you'll see it every time you look at the piece. I should have redone that. But, it probably people wouldn't even notice. And hands, man, that's the hardest thing to draw. Hands and feet. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Anything else? Any other comments or questions?
I'll just add something.
Yeah.
So it's Amy. And I just want to say, Lynn, I really have enjoyed your talk and seeing your work, and seeing, for me, this is new work because I'm familiar with your pieces that used assemblage and so forth. Something that comes to mind throughout this is also the passage of time. And so there's this interplay between kind of like a sweetness and a sadness. And the word that comes to mind for me, and I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but saudade, if you know that word, it's a Portuguese word. And so it's kind of like happy for certain things that have happened and sad for the loss. And so it's, time passage. It touched me in some different ways than what has already been expressed. But, I think the work is fantastic.
Thank
Really,
you.
really enjoyed it.
What was the word?
I think it's spelled Saudade.
Oh.
And it doesn't really have an equivalent in English. But it's, the passage of time and youth, and, I'm maybe a couple years junior to you, but, same, in my 60s and so forth. And so, high school's a mixed bag, right? There's wonderful memories and then some, you know, pretty terrible memories too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's
And
tough.
yeah,
For sure.
but also, I love your treatment of the faces and the portraits, and that some are detailed while others are almost anonymous, right? And so again, that comes to mind to me, even though I was an outgoing kid, right? You still want to kind of stay in the background and be anonymous at that age, right? We're all kind of playing with the same challenges, right? So anyway, I just love the work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that.
Here's a definition: a feeling of longing, melancholy, or nostalgia that is supposedly characteristic of the Portuguese or Brazilian temperament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a maybe a Jobim album that has a track
Ah,
of that.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
it's
Nice.
always been described as undefinable. So,
Yes. I have a colleague, actually, Judy Silk, who Lynn knew
Oh.
from UCLA. This
that's
is a sad story, but her husband passed away, and she had that word tattooed on her body.
oh, wow.
And I remember when I learned that, you know, it touched me, but anyway.
Yeah.
So,
That's a
Nice.
beautiful word.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, this was really, really wonderful.
yeah.
You know, I mean, I know about the project forever, but this just like brought it all home. It was really, really great. And thank you everybody for being here. And there will be a
Thank
recording
you.
of this on the website, on the online exhibition. So if you want to share it or go and look again, or you'll be able to see it there. And the exhibitions, you know, under new exhibitions for the next month, and it'll be just archives. So you'll still be able to see it. But yeah, no, thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you for the
Thank
work.
you.
and-
It's
Yeah.
nice to just finally get it out there.
Yeah.
And have to look at it.
Exactly, exactly. All righty. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or weekend, day and weekend.
Thank
And we'll see y'all soon.
All right.
Great
Take
job.
care. Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.